Okay, we're recording. So I don't believe we met before, even though Molly's Molly and Stacy worked together for quite a long while, and maybe we ran across each other at the crawfish parties that Doc threw, but I
Right.
just don't remember. Do you
I'm
think
pretty
we?
I'm pretty sure we met at one of the crawfish boils.
Okay, okay. And I knew that, I've known for a while that you were in bands. I wasn't sure if you were still playing or not playing, or what the status of that is. Are you still playing? Are you still fairly
I, I'll
active?
I'll always play. I don't tour anymore. I don't like play professional. I mean, I play professional, but I don't play uh, for a living anymore.
Right.
I've moved on from that part, but I still write all the time, and I love to play with the people that I've grown up playing with. I still
Sure.
play with Cajun Harmony and my one of my older bands, Static, and I play with members, just different members that I've played with in Riding High Band and Cheap Whiskey, and people that I've just played with. I love playing with certain people, especially my best friend, my good friends.
Right. How do you keep that all straight with so many different sort of incarnations of groups? How do you keep track of where everybody is, and how do you know if a gig comes up? How do you get it? Does it come to you directly, or does it come to somebody else, and they call you and say, "Hey, let's get together"? Or how does it all come together? Because I'd be confused as hell.
I could say yes, in every way. Social media, phone calls from old people, from old friends who we played gigs with before. Um, Other band members who say, hey, you want to come sit in with us, come play a show. Uh, so yeah, it comes from all over the place. Kind of like when people ask me, well, how do you write songs? And they say, does it come from like an idea? Do you write the lyrics first? Do you write the music first? How does that all start? And I answer the same way. Yeah, yeah. You just don't
It
really.
comes however it comes, huh?
Yeah, there's no rhyme or reason. Things just happen. So
Yeah.
same thing. I I booked a show today. I booked a wedding. Uh, whatever happens. I mean, we always play New Year's together.
Right.
Whether it be my big band, my older band that we get together probably once, twice a year. And it's a family.
Hmm.
I'm really fortunate that I play with great players, man. Like I'm talking about the guys I play with are world class. They could play with anybody in the world. And
Hmm.
when you play with people like that, you don't really we don't even practice. We send each other the songs we're going to do. We show up, we run through them, and let's go.
Yeah, I
So
was going to ask you about that. Just this kind of follows from the last question, and with so many different musical groups you're in, you've got to have a repertoire, just a ridiculous number of songs that you can pull out of your bag. How do you keep them all straight?
uh you do them so many times that it's funny that different groups of people, you have these staple songs that you do, and then there's some songs that are staple songs you do with all of them.
Hmm.
There's songs that I do every show.
Right.
I do some Delbert McClinton. I do some like Purple Rain. I do some Stevie Ray Vaughan. I do some George Strait. There's some stuff I do every show I play. But then there's also songs that with certain people I'll do certain songs. Like
Right.
one of my bands, we play a lot of heavier music, so I might do heavier rock and roll. Some of the bands like Cajun Harmony, I do more of the Cajun stuff, even though they're mostly Cajun. I do some of the Cajun stuff and things that I don't ordinarily do with other bands. So
Right.
you got staples, and then you got the extras, and then there's always a song or two we'll just throw in.
Yeah. I would imagine that that keeps it fresh, having such a varied set list. Probably not the right word, but just
No,
having
that's right.
such a wide range of material that you can put into any particular show. That you're not sort of in a rut of always playing the same songs, always in the same order, that kind of thing.
Right.
Um,
And I'm also like, I play so many different genres because I'll
right.
do everything from Cajun to rock to blues to
Hmm.
country to new country to like not pop, but maybe like some funk, you know, and I'll do some swamp pop. So yeah, the different genres, and it's also good when you get to play with other people. It's
Yep.
just playing with your other friends. And it's really cool when we all come together.
Yeah.
Uh, like I said, I just think the world of the guys that I play with. All of my friends, Eustace Ledet and Edwin Worthy and the VJ brothers, and yeah, just I could go on, like Alistair White, and I play with some really world class players, man, and I love those guys, and we're like family. We
Mm,
really are like family, and that's we always call each other like our musical brothers.
yeah. So how did you get started in music? Was that something you knew pretty quickly when you were a kid, or is it something you just found its way to you and you didn't really choose it? It kind of chose you.
Again, yes. uh, I grew up at my daycare when I was growing up. When I was young, I grew up at Miss Ruby Kimball's house, and she was my preschool teacher, and she took care of me because my mom and dad were both teachers. And
Hmm.
school was over in elementary. I would go to her house. Just so happens her son is Bobby Kimball, the lead singer, one of the lead singers of Toto, and I kind of grew up, looking up to Bobby as like an athlete, like a football player, and like a big brother. And
Hmm.
when we moved, when I was young, we moved to a different neighborhood, and right across the street, behind my neighbor's house, across the street, was Marsha Ball, who
Oh yeah, I my wife and I saw Molly and I saw Marsha play at on a cruise. It's
yeah,
actually a Delbert and McClinton cruise.
yeah,
We
yeah, or
went
a
back
right,
like
right,
20 years ago.
right, and I always looked up to Marsha, and I always found it so cool that Marsha and Bobby Kimball were in choir together in Vinton High School.
Wow.
And then my buddy I grew up with that played the drums with me, Timmy Dugas, who's just a phenomenal,
Hmm.
drummer, songwriter, and composer, and just madman. And his dad was worked at the school and worked with my dad through the school, and he's Cajun Music Hall of Fame. And
Nice.
he even wrote the NAPA means Napa Berry Brothers. So he wrote jingles, and
Sweet.
he's written some staple Cajun songs like the Heritage Waltz, and some really big time Cajun songs that every Cajun band plays. And
Right.
so I kind of, I grew up in it. My Pawpaw Morgan was a musician. I call him Pawpaw Morgan because I grew up with at their house, but he wasn't my blood Pawpaw. But
That doesn't matter around here.
all of
You
them.
know
And
that.
then I was an athlete, and I hurt my back. And what really got me to start playing music, not that I didn't love it and was brought up in it, but I hurt my back, and I was really depressed about the fact that I wasn't going to get to play college ball, and
Yeah,
I was
that'll
kind
do
of
it.
realizing that my quality of life was more important, and I happened to grab a report card out of a drawer, and it said CCCA. Hey, and I was like, A in PE, A in chorus. I was like, well, I can't play music
There
anymore.
you go. Life made a
They got
decision
to
for you.
sing. I mean, I can't play sports anymore, so maybe I can sing. And a friend of mine moved back from LA, guitar player, fantastic guitar player, and
Mhm.
we were hanging out at a house one day, and he started playing guitar, and we started singing, and he called a couple of guys, and we put our first little band together. And
Nice. Now,
yeah,
do you have perfect pitch? Are you able to kind of pick the notes out of the air and sing to them, or do you need accompaniment?
Well, if I know the song, if I sing the song in the key enough, like, if I just start a song that I've been singing forever, I can do it. But I my daughter has perfect pitch. She had perfect pitch um to Tickle Me Elmo when she was like 6 years old.
Yeah.
She would, we realized one day that she would start singing the next song on the little CD.
Wow.
And when she would sing it, we would play it,
And it
and we
would match.
realized she was already in key, even when the key
Wow.
changed. But with me, I have to sing it an awful lot to be perfect pitch.
Yeah.
But I mean, it's only because a lot of songs we do in different keys. It's hard to do a song that you do in in different keys that you have to like figure them out. You kind of somebody's kind of got to give you the pitch. But
Yeah, like if you've got a like a concertina player, he's only going to have a certain number of you know concertinas with him in maybe two or three keys, right?
right,
So
right.
you've got to transpose then.
Well, and Cajun accordions too.
Yeah,
Cajun accordions come in one key. I mean,
right.
and so you.
That's what I meant. I just didn't. I call them concertinas, but
Oh, well, you know more than me.
well, no, I don't know about that.
We call them
It's just
accordions.
right. See, I'm a Yankee. I grew up in Baltimore, so you got to forgive me. I'm not as versed in everything down here as maybe somebody like you that's grown up and lived here all your life.
Yeah,
Um,
I
I
said
do love it though.
accordions. We don't
Yes,
even
sir.
call them accordions. We call them accordions.
Yeah. Now, what was I going? I have a list
Mm-hmm.
of questions, and I don't necessarily want to go, or I'm not going to ask you to go through everyone like a running dialogue or interrogation or anything like that. But if you see me looking down, it's because I'm trying to figure out what next to say.
Yeah,
But there are, and I want to make sure some certain of these I definitely want to go over at least to give me a reference point. It's like, okay, what have I asked? What haven't I asked? Um, how did you get into the Cajun music? And I know that you've played with some sort of prominent Zydeco players because Zydeco Cajun is so different than most everything. I mean, it really goes way back past where rock and roll began. And so it's a lot different than rock and roll or maybe even, later country.
right.
So how do you put those two together? How do they enter, a common assembly point in your head, for lack of a better way to put it?
We, you know, my neighbor right down the road, Mr. Lejeune, he played accordion. Like I said, my buddy that I graduated marched side by side with, my drummer, his dad was a Cajun musician. And being from Southwest Louisiana, Paw Morgan played Cajun music. You kind of just in it. And when I started playing music, we realized that our our the gift we had, the one thing that made us special as a band was our diversity.
Mhm.
We could play, like, some of the guys were like really rockers, like rockers.
Right.
Some of us were legit old school country, and some of us grew up in Cajun and swamp pop. And so we just kind of blended. And the big band that I was in, Static, who played all over the country, we opened for numerous national acts. I want to say in the neighborhood of 30 or 40 national acts. And when we were playing, we kind of created our own Cajun music.
Mhm.
We called it Zydecore or Metallico, which was, you know, heavy guitar and aggressive vocals with an accordion, and, just kind of craziness. And
Yeah.
Marshall Tucker Band, we opened for them one night, and the next night they were playing a festival in Houston that a friend of mine put on, and they were just raving about this crazy band that opened for them in 30 years. They've been playing, they've never seen anything like it, and man, the gay were playing scrub boards and accordions and like rocking out. My buddy's like, who are you talking about? He goes, man, we can't remember their name. And he's like, if I say it, will you know it? And they go, oh, of course. And he goes, Static. And they go, yeah, that's them, man. They were phenomenal. And I was like, wow, man, Marshall Tucker Band been doing this 30 years and they're over there even about us because we were just so wild. But
Yeah.
you know, when you're doing original music and it's hardcore heavy metal Zydeco, it really doesn't have a place in a genre for mainstream. So we really never took a shot, but we sure did play Club Rain in Vegas and the Hard Rock Cafe and opened for a ton of national acts and had some national recognition. You know, we played with a lot of national bands and we were pretty successful. My first band was all original, Louisiana Yard Dogs. Those guys still play. And
Yeah, I've seen some of the videos on YouTube.
yeah, so I've done everything. I've done from original rock to original Zydeco or Metallico and covers mixed, and then I've been in straight cover bands, but I always continue to write, and I just really love being lost. You know, the first time I played golf, everybody's like, "Oh man, golf sucks, golf sucks," and then I played it, and I was like, "It did suck," but you know what? For 2.5 hours, I didn't think about anything except that stupid little ball. And I feel so much better about life right now because I've had a break off of everything else in the world. And when I play music, that's where I go. I become a different person. I do. I try to get lost in what I do. And it's been a godsend. And it's been something that is who I am, and I will always do it. I'll always do it.
That's great. Not too many people can say that they had the guts to follow their dream, unless their dream was to be an accountant or a salesman or an analyst. Music's a tenuous business at the best, and there are very few people that can actually make money at it.
All right.
It's just so difficult, and you don't. It, I think people don't understand how much of a business it is, and they think it's just a matter of getting up on stage, playing your songs, and then taking your choice of the thousands of groupies that are waiting in the dressing room.
Oh, that happens. Well, the thing about it is, we got together one day and started writing and talking about how many jobs there are in being in a band full time and making a living doing it. And I think there was upwards of high 30s, maybe early 40s of jobs that you have to be able to do to
That's
be
right.
full time. And we made good money. I made as much money as I've made in any job I've ever done when I was really doing it, when I was doing it full time. But the difference of the money you make at that level to actually making it on mainstream radio is very versatile. Like you have to like some people who've made big hits didn't make as much money as we were making
Yeah.
because I mean not big hits, but like one hits.
Right.
You just don't when you sign record deals, the money wasn't what it is now. Now you can do it on your own, and now if you hit social media, you can become a star and make a lot more money. And you know it's definitely a business. It's definitely a challenge. The hard part for me was family and being away from my daughter, missing so many things in life because you're looking and hoping to make it bigger so you can really provide. I mean, like I said, for the money you're making, I don't know if I had to do it all over again, I probably would because I got really close a few times. You know, I got really close to that next level, but I
Right.
always made a pretty good living doing it, and I loved it. But it's a sacrifice, man. It's sacrifice on my body. It's sacrifice for my family. Uh, but I don't think I would change anything.
Yeah. Well, that's a sign of a life well lived. Um, is it easy for you to get up on stage and sing to people, or is it something you kind of have to get psyched up for, and or is it different? Does it depend on the crowd or the venue or?
You know, I get nervous still. I mean, it doesn't matter if it's, 12, 15,000 people at a festival, and sometimes more. Like festivals, you don't know how many people. But, when we play contraband days, the time, like the Marshall Tucker band, I don't even know how many people were out there. It was,
Mhm.
thousands and thousands. And then, you know, there, it's a nervous thing. That's nervous. But to be honest with you, I can go play a small casino gig with just me and a guitar player in front of 11, 15 people and 30 other people playing machines. And those 7 to 15 people standing there staring at you right in front of you.
Mhm.
Sometimes that's more. That's more nerve wracking because you're exposed. It's who you are. It's everything. You can't hide a missed note. You can't hide forgetting the words. You can't. Uh, Everything's right there, and
Right.
I'm I get lost. Like I said, I get lost in what I do, and I just got to get to the point that it's more about connecting with the people and giving them what they want, and just having a good time and just being loose enough to enjoy yourself.
Mhm. When you were opening for Marshall Tucker and some of the other, well-known, nationally well-known groups, were did you find you're generally treated well or treated as just kind of, an appendage that groups felt like they needed it, but didn't really wanna spend time with and, wouldn't give you time on sound check, that kind of thing? I mean, you hear those stories, and yet you also hear some groups that had really good times when they were, doing opening, even though they were possibly getting more applause than the headliner. So I'm really interested in hearing about that because it has to be kind of weird because you're working with guys that are potentially famous and would have seemed extremely wealthy, and to have made it, maybe they did, maybe they didn't, but I mean, in your world would be so different from that. How did you feel about that?
Yes, yeah, all of the above. I mean, uh, I've also worked a lot of sound jobs. Being in the business,
Yeah.
you do a lot of things, and I've had the privilege and the pleasure of meeting legends. I hung out with James Brown, and
Wow.
when the time I met James Brown, it was like just didn't know what to expect, and he was just the nicest guy you ever met. And then you never know what you're gonna get. Uh,
Yep.
Different people had different attitudes. First record I ever bought was "Fooled Around and Fell in Love" from Elton Bishop.
Yep.
And when I met the singer, who was also in Jefferson Starship, Mickey Thomas, I was so excited because Mickey Thomas was the first record I ever bought.
Well, yeah, that voice. I mean,
Yeah, and he brushed me off. And then Bobby Kimball walked in, and I saw Bobby, and Mickey sees Bobby, and Mickey jumps off the stage and goes running over to Bobby to go say hi. Oh my God, it's Bobby Kimball from Elton. And he goes to, shake Bobby's hand, and Bobby shakes his hand and pulls him past him and gives me a big hug. Phil, what are you doing? And he turns around to Mickey Thomas. Hey, this is like my little brother, man. You should hear him sing. He sounds like Stephen Stills.
oh,
And
that's great.
nice to me after that. So I mean, there's been moments that were life life stories.
Yep.
I mean, James Brown held my hand and called me over to get in the prayer circle with the band before they went on
Hmm.
stage. Held his hand. We worked with Merle Haggard, but then just like the people you've opened for, like we opened for Hootie and the Blowfish, and those guys were so incredible, like so nice and so cool.
Yeah.
And Wayne too. So we've played with Wayne a million times, and I love Wayne to death, man. Me and Wayne are really cool. So I
He's
don't know if
still, I mean, he is still
he-
hitting it.
yeah,
That guy is just as
complete.
busy as he's ever been.
Oh yeah, he's doing well. He's gone through. We played a lot. We've played with a lot of the same musicians.
Yeah.
A lot of the guys who played in his band had played with me, and vice versa. And yeah, so he was always really good. He always called me up and when I was at his shows, and he'd have me sit in, and he's come and sat in with me at some of my shows, and I've done a show with Bobby Kimball. That was amazing. Uh, so I don't, as far as openings go, I can't really recall any nightmare openings where people were just completely rude. I mean, now some were like, even if they took up and it cut our sound check short, they weren't rude about, hey man, look, we don't have much time. You guys are going to have to like mix on the fly. Well, when you
Yeah.
play as many shows as we have,
Didn't really need
okay,
it.
let's go. You know,
Hmm.
yeah, I've been really fortunate with that, but I have worked with some divas in the sound world.
Of course, and microphone junkies, I'm sure.
Oh yeah, they're yeah, yeah,
That's not an ointment. You can't record with it if it's not an ointment.
yeah, yeah. But you know, it's just it's anything in life. It's any job you're in, and you run across people who aren't as cooperative or have a little bit too much ego for you, or just a little bit in a bad mood, maybe, and
Yeah.
run across it. But I've had a real, I've had a great career in music. I really, hey, you never made it famous. Well, what do you call famous? I mean, am I famous on the radio and TV? No. Have I been on the radio? Yes. Have I been on TV? Yes. I've opened for a lot of big time acts. I've earned the respect of a lot of people, and I've got no regrets with that. I'm really happy doing what I'm doing right now, but I'm never going to not play music.
That's awesome. That's awesome. Speaking of jobs, I know that you're also a social studies teacher. And
Right?
one of the questions I wanted to ask you about was whether you thought that the two occupations that you do, whether one feeds from the other, or I assume you enjoy both, and there must be some correlation. I mean, I did see the video of you giving the pep cheer at the school, so
Yeah.
I know that you love your kids. So can you maybe expand on that a little bit? How your musical career intertwined with your instructional career.
Well, any teacher, any good teacher has to be an entertainer. You have to be able to give some energy, and then beyond being an entertainer to the kids, you have to be passionate about what you do. I mean, if I go sing Mustang Sally at a show, well, who hadn't heard Mustang Sally done 50,000 different ways by 50,000 people? So everybody's like, well, everybody's heard that. Well, yeah, exactly. So you better get out there and kill it.
Yeah,
And when you're teaching, those kids know if you're real, and you got to be real. And when you're playing and you're singing Mustang Sally, you better mean it. Because if you get up there and you do it halfway, those people who've heard that so many times, they're going to leave and say, man, he couldn't even sing Mustang Sally. You know?
yeah, I can
So,
go see that at every wedding I go to.
right. But there's a passion part that is the most important part. Then there's the entertainment part that you have these kids engaged. You have to entertain them. They have to they have to know you care. They have to know you care about what you're talking about. They have to know you care about them. And I feel the same way about my crowds. I feel the same way about the players that I play with.
That's great, because so many bands fall apart because they just don't like each other, or don't have respect for each other, or don't just, get tired of being around the same guys day after month after year, and they just crumble, especially when money gets involved.
Oh,
So
there's
that
money. alcohol and women,
Women.
egos, and yeah, there's a lot there's a lot to it. And like I said, I've played with a lot of players. So I'm not going to say that I haven't cut ties with certain people for certain reasons. Um,
Sure.
but overall, the whole realm of it, about 90% of the players that I play with, I still play with today.
Yeah, that's great. That's really great. Are there any songs that you've written or maybe just played so often that you feel like they're children, like precious and you just have a special feeling for them?
Um, yeah, you got in my feelings a little bit.
Oh, sorry.
I sing Purple Rain, got in my feelings.
Well, I don't mean you don't have to go anywhere that is uncomfortable or
Well,
maybe has bittersweet connotations. Um,
my sister, I lost my sister to cancer, and
yes.
she was always she listened to all kinds of music too. She was one of the influences that I had, that she listened to everything, like uh Angels Flying Too Close to the Ground, Willie Nelson. She played it one night at Pizza Hut when I was a kid,
Hmm.
11 times. And the people were so mad because she played it on the jukebox 11 times in a row. And everybody there was so mad, but we fell in love with it. And she always loved Prince, and she liked Purple Rain. And the first time I sang it, she was like, you should play a song every night. And then, when she passed, I always said I would always play it, and I play that song every night I play. And then I met Delbert McClinton, and I just thought Delbert was just the nicest guy. And I told him, I grew up with Marsha Ball, and he was like,
Hmm.
God, Marsha's a good friend. And so I'm really connected to his music too. Um,
Yeah. I think she's got a
yeah,
show coming up in not too long, at one of the casinos, I think. I remember reading about that like a couple months ago. I might be wrong. I might have the dates wrong or something, but in any case, I'd love to go see her again. She's so classy and she sings wonderfully, and
and
she
she
just
plays,
entertains and plays like
plays. Oh,
plays like she was
yeah,
born on top of a piano.
she can play that piano.
Yes, yes, sir. Um, a friend of mine, guy I grew up with went to school in elementary school and junior high. Um, he actually wrote a book about Prince. I'll have to send you the link. You can get on Amazon. I don't know if it's hardcover or softbound, or maybe it's just like a um, an Amazon ebook. I'll have to send you a link to it if I can. I'll just ask him.
That'd be
So because I sounds like that's very near and dear to you. So it's
yeah, and
very well
I've
researched.
always
He's
been a fan.
he's spent, I think he said 3 or 4 years researching it. It's got all the crazy stuff that Beatles fans like all the recording dates and all that crazy detail that hardcore fans love.
We were just watching the making of We Are the World,
Yeah.
and I was just sitting there watching that and thinking, those demos that they sent out to all these artists, how precious those demos would be, and how, to have one. But I'm also a big Beatles fan. I my cousin was a Beatles fanatic, and she kind of led me that way. And then my sister was Little Feet and Bog Skaggs and Boz Skaggs
Boy,
and
when
all
Boz
that.
was active, you couldn't go a day without hearing, one of his tracks. And he hasn't really, I mean, he seems to have disappeared. You don't hear many people talking about his music these days.
Yeah.
Talk about a lot of other artists, but not Boz, and I don't understand why that is.
You sometimes it's just time to move on,
Yeah.
and that's with anything. Um, I think when I lost my parents and they were both teachers, I felt like I needed to go back to education. I needed to honor my parents and
Mhm.
what they did. I every weekend of just about every weekend of my life, I can remember old students who were grown up and moved out and had families of their own would come by the house just to sit on the front porch with my dad and tell him how much he did for them.
Wow.
So, and my mom too. They see people in the marketplace or in the grocery store and come hug mama's neck and tell her how much she meant to them. And so when I lost them, I and my daughter was in school and she, I wanted to be a part of what she was. I missed so much of her growing up. And so it was time for me to not necessarily settle down, but just to do something else. And that's the blessing of my life, is that I have been supported by family who've allowed me to do what I love. And I'm
Mhm.
fortunate enough to be talented enough in the things that I do to make a living to do them. And that's
Yeah.
music and coaching and teaching.
That's a very rare gift. How are
Yeah.
the girls? Has the basketball season started this yet?
Yeah.
Started yet?
We're almost through.
Oh,
Um,
okay.
Actually, the athletic director that hired me, I coached, and he called me and said, "Look, man, we don't even have a basketball team this year because it's just falling apart, and I need you to come help
Yeah.
this program." And last year they said you'll be lucky to have a team, and I won 8 games, and we were in 8 more.
Wow.
And this year we started this year and came in second place in one of the holiday tournaments.
That's great.
We're playing in a 3A division with 3 teams that are ranked in the state. So it's been a really rough year because I'm young. I'm
Yeah.
a JV team against varsity teams that are ranked in the state, and we're the second smallest 3A school, and we're playing a bunch of 3A, but we go down to 2A next year. And my girls have had a couple of years experience, and we're we're turning a corner. I'm excited about the future. I've got some really great girls coming up, and they're good kids beyond that. They're really the young kids I got coming up, and my freshmen and sophomores. They're good kids. We just have to develop a winning culture,
Yeah.
and hopefully, hopefully we're getting that done.
Awesome. That's great. I you would never know to look at me. A couple 100 pounds ago, I used to be a competitive swimmer. In any case,
Wow.
yeah, it was insane, but um, it's something that stays with you, that competition, and I I mean, it changes you. It really does. And I also, after I was finished swimming in college, I coached for a while, and I just couldn't do it long term with the schedule that I had because just so amount of driving quickly I needed to do to get from point A to B to C and so on because I worked in one place, I lived in the wrong location for so it was 30 minutes from where I worked, and where I worked was like 45 minutes away from where I coached, and uh, so it was fun for a while. It burned me out so quickly, but it was a lot of fun, and those kids just had a blast. They weren't, you hear a lot of horror stories about kids, but there's so many good kids that you never hear about because they're not interested in being heard. They just want to learn. They want to improve, not just in athletics, but in their academics as well. They just want good lives, and you never hear about those kids because they're not out doing things to get attention. So I definitely understand why you love doing that.
Well, crazy you said that. That's really my biggest sport is swimming. I,
Really,
I taught
really,
I've taught swimming from the time I was 13 years old
no kidding.
to today. And people ask me all the time, man, why do you still teach swimming lessons? Because there is nothing, even music. I get pleasures. I get these charges. I get these things that make you feel connected to life, that make you feel like you're doing something. Music is great, but teaching swimming, when you can make a kid go from something that they are deathly afraid of
Hmm.
To watch them go on their own and swim and see them accomplish overcoming that fear and then
Yeah.
learning how to be good at it. I don't think there's anything better. I mean, even teaching, I just overcoming that. And it's not just kids,
That's
adults.
right.
I taught a 76-year-old woman who was deathly afraid of the water. And she said, it's on my bucket list to learn how to
Good
swim.
for her.
And I said, I will teach you way. And in 1 week, she swam across the pool.
That's terrific.
There's nothing that to me is why I teach and why I coach. Because when you see someone accomplish something like that, it's really that's what life's about. It's about giving what you have and helping someone overcome something that they need to do, you know? And
Yep.
it gives me that same thing when there's people that come up and go, I can't play anything, I can't sing anything, but music is my life. And I was like, wow, like I've played music for a living for a long time and music has been my life, but I play it and sing it. And when you see people that can't, who appreciate what you do so much, that's very, very similar
Hmm.
to the sing, because you're giving them a gift that they can't do. And
That's right.
that's the parallel.
Yeah. I've played guitar for a long while, but that's giving myself way too much credit. I've whacked at guitar for a long while. I know some chords, but it's frustrating because I have short, stubby fingers, and they just don't work, and I'm not disciplined enough or whatever to keep at it. I'll put it up, take it up for a while and then play and then put it back because I get frustrated. And I think that's true for a lot of people, but musicians somehow push past that. So I never ever
Well,
would
not
call
always,
myself a musician.
not always, because my first band that I started playing in, my guitar player went to GIT. He went to Guitar Institute of Technology.
Yeah.
Jim Batten, who played guitar for Michael Jackson, was one of his instructors. And this guy was so phenomenal. Like, so I'm trying to learn how to play guitar, and then he picks it up and plays Eruption note for note. And you're just like, okay, I'm gonna put that down up again, and you're going to start learning how to play again. And your second guitar player grew up playing with Clay Walker and Mark
Yeah.
Chestnut and those guys, and he starts playing and he's doing all the chicken picking and and you're like, okay, I'm putting it back down again. And and then you get the privilege to play with you know Joe Manuel, who played with Ace and the Hole Band, or Mike Zito, who's a blues legend, on the road with Joe Bonamassa, and you get an opportunity to play with Jeff LeBlanc and some of these guitar players that are, just phenomenal. And then, my cousins are just unbelievable. And every time I would think, oh yeah, I'm gonna learn this. I'm gonna learn now because I got time. And then I go out and play a gig and these guys play, and I just don't even want to pick it up again.
Oh yeah, especially when some of these guys are like not just talented and have magical fingers, but they know all the high end theory stuff. They know modes. They can read sheet music that's like 5 clefs high.
Yeah, yeah.
Orchestral scores.
Oh,
Like
the
I don't
ones
know how you do that.
I got one I told you earlier. The VJ brothers. One of the guys plays bass, piano, a little bit of guitar. Um, and we're in the studio with the steel guitar player for Blake Shelton, and he's standing there and he's going to play the dobro, which is a slide guitar. And
Right.
my bass player tells him, he says, "Hey, do you mind, Kenny, if I play it a little bit?" And he goes, "Well, yeah, man, go ahead." So he
Wow.
picks it up and he just starts sliding and playing it and just like going off. And he goes, "Well, heck, man, why didn't they just get you to do this?" He goes, "Well, I've never played this before." Like,
That sounds like a little like sandbagging there. I bet he had
no, he
really?
never played it before.
Wow.
Never. And
That
then
is so hard. I mean, it's
oh,
not easy
no. And I had a
at
left-handed
all.
player played a right-handed guitar upside down one day because they didn't have a left-handed guitar. So he grabbed the right-handed guitar and turned it upside down and was playing it upside down and backwards. And
That's nuts.
yeah, I mean, I've played with guys like that. They're just oh, my accordion player, drums, bass, guitar, accordion, sings. I mean, these guys just naturally can just pick it up. Or the guys that you play with that go, somebody requests a song and they go, well, I heard that before. Play
Once.
and play it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's probably what I have to lay my hat on as far as a career goes, is to say that I have played with world class players who are that talented and unbelievable. And that's all I really need, is to have the brothers I have and to see
Yeah.
these guys continue to do what they do.
Yeah, and the fact that you can stand on stage with them and feel good about it, what more could you ask for?
Yeah. 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 I mean, if you're playing pro football and you're out on the field with the best players in the world, you feel pretty good about the fact that you're out there. So it's the same thing when you're on that stage.
That's right. Well, I'm just trying. I kind of need to go, and I would love to just spend the rest of the night talking to you, but I got kind of a few other things to do. I'm sure you have many
Oh
other
yeah.
things to do. But
Oh,
is there anything that we haven't gone over that you think you'd like to share with the audience? Any maybe advice for people looking to get into the industry and maybe start making their own music?
I would say learn it all. I would say learn how to play, learn how to sing. If you can play more than one instrument, learn how to play it. If you can learn how to hook up a PA system, learn how to do a
That
website,
I can do. That I
social,
can do. I can do
learn social,
PA.
all of it. It all counts. I used to tell young guys, and I've done a lot of mentoring. I've mentored people who've signed record deals actually, and the thing about that is I tell them all, if you walk in and you're a phenomenal guitar player and they go, well, what else do you do? Oh man, I just play guitar. And then another guy comes in who's not quite as good as a guitar player as you, but he sings and he plays
Right.
the bass and he can record or he can build a website. All of a sudden your
He's in
job
demand.
opportunities are limited. And I would say
Yeah.
that's what you
And
do it and be committed and believe in yourself and don't ever stop. You can't stop. Make it who you are, not just what you do.
yeah, that's great advice. Well, my dogs are demanding I take them outside. This is probably the right time to maybe finish the discussion, but I I really enjoyed it. I
I
want to
did too.
thank you so very much for your patience in adjusting to my weird schedule and needs. But I'm really glad we finally got together, and I'd like to interview you in the future if you're willing. I think there's probably a lot of ground to cover that I just haven't gotten to tonight.
Okay.
Um, and if you can, do you have any like firm dates or future dates that you're going to play that are open to the public?
Um Soon. I want to finish basketball and I've got track coming up. I want to let my track schedule get solidified to where I know everything I'm going to be doing and then I'll start booking summer shows here real soon.
Great,
I mean, I
great.
do have some shows, but one's a wedding, and then another one's, like a little semi-private crawfish boil,
Yeah.
uh, and I'll pop in and sit in with some bands here and there. But man, I want to tell you, you've done a really good job, man. I mean,
Oh, that's
I've
kind of
enjoyed
you to say.
myself too, and you're easy to talk to. You ask great questions, and I'll definitely we'll get together, and I got a couple of buddies that you might want to interview too.
That'd be
You know,
great. And just I'll just throw this out there. I've got decent field recording equipment. If y'all ever want to do like a recording, probably outdoor would be better in terms of what the how the camera performs. But
sure.
you know, I work cheap, as in no charge. It's been a while since I did any live shows.
That's fantastic.
And
That's
yeah,
you're doing it for exposure, right? That's what we do. We do it for exposure.
I'm too old for that. I just do it because
No, that's what
I
people always say to us. You know, hey, look, it doesn't pay very much, but it's good exposure.
you're in show business, man.
Well,
No, I just isn't. I'll do this little blurb, and then when I was working away in South Carolina, I was pretty near some decent rock venues, and so I'm far from home, had nothing else to do, so I just started accumulating some recording gear and started recording these shows. I was able to go to shows in North Carolina, in Augusta, Georgia, in Athens, Georgia, in Atlanta. So I managed to see a number of these shows. And, by the time I had all my gear sorted, it was time to come back home. And there's not nearly the same kind of scene in this area. It's much smaller, and we don't see a lot of rock acts coming this way.
right.
But in any case, I really enjoyed doing that.
Yeah.
And the one problem I always had was setting gain. It seems like such a simple thing to do, right? But it tormented me, because if I recorded at the gain levels per the meters, it always came out hot. And when I recorded just to make sure I never, clipped, then I had to boost the level so much in post that the noise floor was way too high. And
Right.
I never ever could quite figure that out. Um, you know, yes, I could have thrown more money at a better recorder, but I don't know. So that was just something that
Well,
frustrated me, and I've
well,
always like, go ahead.
we'll talk because
Okay.
I've done a lot of studio work, and you know, you might not have to throw a bunch of money. A good limiter, a good noise reduction, and maybe just a different mic and a different
Yeah.
setup and a line in, and just being careful of your gains.
Right.
We'll talk because I
Okay.
got to do it too. I
Sounds
got
great.
the road with national acts that do sound for a living, and so yeah, I'll be glad to. That's great. And man, like I said, it's been a pleasure. And anytime
Likewise, Philip.
reach out, you just let me know when, and we'll do it again sometime.
Hey,
That
Chuck.
sounds great. Hey, Stacy, how are you, sweetheart?
Good. How are you?
I'm fine, thank you. It's good
Good.
to see you again.
You too.
All right, man. Well, we'll be in touch.
Sounds great. Thank you
Yes.
both. Have a good night.
You too. Good night.
Bye now.